Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project with Lalo and Bob. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Let's jump right into that weekly dose of things you can disagree with. Take it away, guys.
All right, good morning and welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project. I'm your host, Bob, and this is my other co-host. Or maybe you're the host and I'm the co-host. I don't know. Fuck it.
I think I'm the co-host.
Are you the sidekick?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not the hero, Lalo. Come on. That's fucked up. That puts a lot of pressure on me, bro.
You're like the you know how in sports there's always two announcers? There's a play-by-play guy and then like the analyst.
Oh.
You're like the play-by-play guy.
I'm the play-by-play and you're the color man.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's all right. I had some fucked up dream about announcing a football game the other night, and I had no fucking clue what I was doing. It was so stressful. Stress dreams. Don't you love them?
Yeah.
Hey, man, this whole thing, we were going to do this last week, and it was going to be about the environment and the fire and the water, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit but this environmental alarmist thing is really putting a lot of pressure on our culture in a time when we don't fucking need it. And I was thinking, as I was doing some research this morning, I remembered being a kid, and I was like 13 or 14 years old, and Time magazine said we were plunging into another ice age. And by the time 2020 or 2030 came around, the earth would have cooled 4 to 5 degrees, and the ice cap would have been down in Canada and all kinds of shit. And, I think, that led me to think about environmental alarmism and scientific alarmism and actually the whole fucking news thing is just one alarm after another. And I think maybe that got me thinking maybe that's why people don't listen anymore.
They're just so used to like seeing it everywhere. They kind of take it as like the whole boy crying wolf type of thing.
Yeah. And that's why, when you look back over the last 50, 60 years, this has happened again and again and again. And so along comes this COVID-19 and you start telling people to wear masks. And after you've told them not to wear masks, and they just see it as another fuck up from science.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I mean, it's one of those things where I think things like, COVID and, climate change, it's one of those things where the science is like constantly changing just because, there's like new information all the time.
Yeah. Constantly playing catch up.
Yeah. So, I mean, what we hear is constantly changing, which I think makes people kind of doubt it, because they're so used to science being so like, set in stone and like, this what happens with this and this what happens with that. So, but what they don't realize, it's something that's, like ongoing. So it is going to change. And like, the information is going to, vary over time because we're, like you said, we're playing catch up. We're learning as we go.
Yeah.
So it's, it's going to be a little different than, your regular, this is how photosynthesis works and all that shit,
Right. But the very nature of science is experimentation, and
right.
And nothing is, any scientist will tell you, really nothing is set in stone because each experiment has to reproduce the last experiment in order for the experiment to be valid. So when you get new information and the experiment changes to fit the new information, then it changes the outcome. And then all of a sudden you're left with, well, that's not valid anymore. And at the rate we're going now with AI and supercomputers and people, scientists all over the world working on the same problem. So then you have this influx of information that is just overwhelming, and science has changed so much. Well, fuck, man. How long did it take to, get a smallpox vaccine versus how long did it take to get a COVID-19 vaccine?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just rocketing forward now. And as good as that is, I don't think the human condition is adapted to change that fast.
No, yeah, I think we're incapable. Or I don't think we're incapable. We just refuse to do like and I was talking about it to one of our coworkers, Robert, the other day, that I feel like we're gonna get to a point where we're we refuse to do all the little things that we need to do to, make things better. Like wear a mask or, use less water or, just all the
Yeah.
little things that could make a big effect. We don't do all the little things, so we're gonna be forced to do big, like radical changes when it's like an emergency. And
Yeah.
that's when people are really gonna like fucking lose their shit. So
Uh, they're
it's
losing
just a
their
matter of
shit
time.
in those states where COVID-19 has taken off again. All these vaccine holdout people, they're. I was watching the news this morning, and people are actually lying about the age of their children now to get them shots
Vaccinated.
before they go back to school. So the tide's turning, but like you said, we have to be forced to do it. And when the hospitals are filling back up and people are getting sick and people are dying, then you come to a situation where you're like, are are my values lining up with the truth here?
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, issues with research, that research, when it tells, the average person, you need to put on a mask. Okay, so their values, somehow they've gotten uh, a mask is politicized, and that mask represents tyranny to them. So that being asked to put on a mask doesn't line up with their values, and all of a sudden they're left with this choice of, do I put on a mask to save myself, or am I really saving myself? Are they lying to me? And there has to be this shift in their thinking to to protect themselves
Yeah.
from themselves, basically.
And I think the bad thing is usually that shift comes when it's like a little too late, for a lot of people, when it's hit them close at home, or when they deal with it themselves. That's usually what it takes for a lot of people like that to change their mind, is them either getting really sick, or someone they know getting like really sick, or even dying.
Right.
And that's when they're like, fuck, like, I wish I would have taken the vaccine, or I wish I would have worn a mask.
Yeah. How many stories do we see like that every day? And where there's another conservative talk show host in the hospital now. I didn't catch his name. I just saw the headline. So, and all these people say the same thing. I wish I hadn't have been that dumb. But at the same time, their followers, some of their followers will say, he's right, we shouldn't, I'm going to go do it. And other of his followers will say, he's just turned against us because he got sick.
Yeah. Or a lot of people just think of any excuse to still not do it. They'll be like, oh, well, um, he was old to begin with, or like, he had a underlying condition, so it makes sense. Like he should
Right.
have gotten the vaccine. I'm fine. Like I'm healthy. When like I doubt any person, in this country is healthy to begin with.
Right.
So,
Hey, wait a fucking minute, Lalo.
or a vast majority aren't.
Thank
So,
you. Thank you. I prefer to think of myself as really healthy. I'm
yeah.
trying. But you got this thing, like you said, it has to affect them directly. So it's affecting this water shortage is affecting us directly in California. Although we're still not doing anything about it. They haven't really put any restrictions or anything, although I believe they should. But people on the East Coast, they're being flooded right now, and
Yeah.
there's too much rain. So they think, like my father-in-law, I was talking to him, and he was like, kind of making fun, poking fun at how, hey, you're gonna dry out and you're gonna die out there, ha ha. Ha. And I said, well, dude, 2/3 of your fruits and vegetables comes from right here in California. So if the water system collapses, then it's going to directly affect you, because it's going to directly affect the food supply. And the beef supply and all the things that come out of California, the nuts. And so people need to be affected directly in order to act. And that seems counterintuitive to science telling me that the human brain is wired for survival. If that is true, if that seriously is true, Lalo, why when we see danger, but we're just like, it doesn't affect me? We can't look into the future and see how that's going to affect us.
Yeah, it's not until it affects our like daily lives, daily routine, that's when you start to notice it, you know.
Yeah.
Like all of us, like, you can tell everybody here, in California that, hey, we're in a fucking severe ass drought. But if they go to their shower, if they go to their faucet and they turn it on, water's gonna come out, just like every other day.
Right.
So for them, it's not like a real thing, And I've talked to people about this. They say this is like the worst drought we've had in like ever, like 50 years, 100 years.
Right.
And people just say like, oh, they always say that. They said that last time. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that concerning that every time it's a new drought, it's worse than the last one, which that last one was the worst one like ever.
Yeah.
But, I think it's just like part of it's like desensitization, they're just used to hearing it all the time. So they're just like, oh, they say this all the time, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well,
And
if it's always the worst one, eventually it'll be the last one.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't think we think this through. I can't. They have climate deniers. They have COVID deniers. They have vaccine deniers. They have now got people who are denying climate change. It's like, I don't quite understand how you can be considered, your brain can be considered a survival instinct when you deny every fucking thing that's happened with, oh, that's what they said last time. Well, if it is fucking true that, like you said, if it is worse than the last time, and the last time was worse than the time before that, you should start to see a pattern of it's getting bad, but you don't see it. You don't recognize it because, for what, like you said, here comes the water out of the faucet. What are you fucking talking about?
Yeah. And, it kind of just depends like where you are in life, or like what you do, and, how you live your life to be able to believe that stuff or not,
Yeah.
If you want to go ask, all the farmers in California, they'll be like, hell yeah, we're in a fucking drought, like this shit's worse than I've seen it in my, 50 years of farming or whatever.
Right.
If you want to ask like somebody in like, the middle of town somewhere that lives, downtown, or somebody in the suburbs, they'll be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. My sprinklers kicked on last night at 3 a.m. I'm fine.
Yeah. So it's just that, that perspective that really matters. And, for a lot of people, they can't see it. So they won't see it, if that
Right.
makes sense. Like they can't see it with their physical eyes. So in their mind, it's just not happening. And like, oh, they'll be fine. It's almost, fall and winter again. Like it'll start raining and snowing. So.
Yeah, but it didn't last year,
Exactly.
But the thing is, the year before that, it did rain a little bit, and that, they declare. I don't see how the fuck this happens. Is we have this drought for like 10 years. It rains for one season, and they're like, drought's over. How in the fuck did that happen? So it rained enough in 2 months in 2019, I guess 2020. It rained enough in that year to offset a drought that had been lasting for fucking a decade. I don't think so. It just seems like that's that alarmist culture that we live in. It's either really bad or it's over. Like COVID's over, take your mask off, things are fine. And now it's like variant D, put your mask back on, things are a disaster. Why can't we just ride something out until we fix it? Like if we'd have put masks on in fucking March of 2019 and worn them, this would probably be done with.
Yeah, I think it's just part of that like inconvenience factor, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, like when you were talking earlier about like, oh, you know, how could it rain for 2 months and then, you know, a drought's over for that was going on for 10 years. And I don't think, you know, I mean, I haven't personally like looked into it, but what I'm guessing is, you know, the rain or that snowfall helped, but there's like several categories of a drought, you know?
Right.
So I think, you know, that probably helped us get out of like the severe drought, you know, category and just more into like regular like California, what they're used to type of drought.
Regular old disastrous drought. Yeah.
So, and it kind of, we're just kind of like barely scraping by, you know. Same with like COVID and all that stuff. Like once you, like, you know, we got the vaccines going, you know, cases were like super down. So people starting to like loosen up, you know.
Yeah.
And then, you
I
know,
admit I did.
and I mean everybody did, and you know we were allowed to like they told us like, oh, this okay,
Yeah.
but then we got the you know the Delta variant that's you know a lot more contagious, especially with like younger people.
Yeah.
But you know they still told us you know like the vaccines are still effective against it. You just have to get vaccinated. But I think the rate of our vaccinations compared to you know the rate of this new variant, it just didn't line up, and you know we
Yeah.
started shooting back up.
And it's funny how supervisor at work told us the other day. She was like, "You all need to start kind of carrying your computers home again, because you know that email might be coming soon. Stay the fuck home." And I'm like, "God damn it, here we go again, back to meetings online in my underwear," which I'm not complaining, but I don't know how our economy's gonna, take another fucking hit like that. It's one thing after another right now. It's.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is, our economy doesn't even have to suffer all that much if everybody just like did what they were supposed to do, you know,
Yeah,
for like
yeah.
a short period of time.
I know, man. And doesn't that seem fucking stupid to you? Like, what can you not do for 2 months? What did you just do for 14 fucking months? And, some things you have to do and some things you want to do. And it doesn't matter, if you want to do something, you get it done. If you don't want to do something, even if it needs done, you fucking fight against it. And it's maddening to think about what we could be doing right now instead of what we are doing.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that goes for everything, not for COVID. That goes for our health and our welfare and our finances and our country and climate change. That goes for everything. If, like you said, if people would just stop and listen to the facts and go, okay, I need to change my lifestyle just a little, I'm not just a little
And it's
bit.
the thing is it's usually like temporary, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's not even anything permanent.
I get, there's that thing you were talking about earlier, the inconvenience factor. If it inconveniences you, I don't think so. I don't think so. That infringes upon my freedom.
But I mean, and there's a lot of places around the world that are you know like us that you know, and I mean, I understand the like the sentiment behind it. Like people are tired of, you know, we just did this for like a year and a half. You know,
Yeah,
they don't want to do it all over again. But the reason we did it for a year and a half in the first place was because we couldn't even do it right the first time.
right.
So, you know,
Kind of not our fault
yeah.
in
But
the
I mean,
beginning.
it's happening like all over the world. Like there's
Right.
people all over that, you know, it's spiking back up, you know, everywhere. So, you know, they're thinking about shutting back down.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's some places that handled it pretty well to begin with. And, you know, they're cruising right now.
Yeah, like the UK is inviting people back to vacation there, as long as you have your vaccine card. What, by the way, what do you think about that? A vaccine card? What do you think?
Like to use it to be able to like do stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, for the most part, I feel like the stuff that they require it for are things that are like luxuries. They're not really like necessities, you know. Like you
Baseball
don't need a
games, movies, yeah.
yeah, you don't need it to like go grocery shopping or something, you know.
Well, what if you did? What fucking difference would it make? Really?
Um, well, I think that's where it's kind of getting into like the like iffy category, just because you know you don't need to go to a baseball game, you don't need to go to a fucking concert, but you do need to like buy food or you know
Right?
buy gas and like all these things. Um, but I mean, I don't think it would get to that point where you would need it at like your regular like grocery stores or like mom and pop stuff. Maybe at like restaurants, yeah, because that's a luxury.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with them requiring it for um, like airports, traveling, stadiums, like large gatherings like that. Where the risk of contracting it are a lot higher,
Okay,
especially if you're unvaccinated.
can I play the devil's advocate here and say that you're punishing y- you're going to punish the socioeconomically deprived is what you're going to do. You're going to drive them to be sick. If you don't require them to show it somewhere, then you're just making them sick because rich people go to baseball games. That shit's expensive. You've been, and traveling is expensive, and restaurants and movies. So we're talking about the poorer section of our culture who don't do these things, don't have to show the vaccine card, not going to get the vaccine. They're going to get sick and they're going to die, while the elite, the people who can afford the luxurious items, they're going to pop their card out and say, yeah, certainly I'll to be able to go to a movie, I'll do that. So why can't we make something across the board for everybody and say, you got to get this fucking vaccine, dude. Otherwise, you're punishing the entire culture. You're making us all sick.
See, I would get that and I would understand that if the vaccine wasn't free. I feel the fact that it's free and it's not like a class thing, it's not like, oh, only, the upper middle class or like, the middle class can get the vaccine and, everybody else has to pay for it. Like it's free for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's even people at the very top that refuse to get it based on, just their personal like beliefs of what the vaccine is or like what it does.
Well,
So I don't think,
take away their right to travel and tell me they're not going to get it.
I mean, they probably will,
Yeah.
but at the same time, uh, I don't think, I don't think a lot of people like in the lower like classes have that mindset of, oh, well, I don't even do all those things, so I'm not going to get it. I mean, I'm sure there's some,
Right.
and I'm sure, there's a percentage, but I don't think that's like a majority or, a big part of them. I think a lot of them are just, I think most people that that are unvaccinated are unvaccinated for the same reason. Like they just don't think it's worth like their time, or they don't think it's worth it, or, they don't think it works. They don't think, they're paranoid about it.
But anything you put restrictions on causes people to react. Like motorcycle helmets. You can't have a motorcycle unless you have a helmet. Well, I've fucking ridden a motorcycle all my life. I guess I'll have to wear a helmet now, even though I don't want to. So if you put restrictions on a COVID-19 card and say, this is what we're going to do in order to control this virus, that doesn't seem like a Nazi, communist, socialist, whatever they're calling it. That just seems like self-fucking preservation and survival. If you want to participate in our society, you either have to A, show your card, or B, show a negative test.
Yeah. And I mean, I think certain restrictions, they differ from each other, like the example you just gave, like a motorcycle helmet, that just affects you. If it was up to me, like I really wouldn't care if you wear a helmet or not. Like,
Thanks a lot, man.
it's the smart thing. It's the smart thing to do. You know, it's the responsible thing to do.
Right.
But if you yourself are choosing to not wear a motorcycle helmet and, something happens and you fucking kill yourself, that's kind of on you. If, whereas, these vaccine like restrictions and like regulations, like we're not doing it to save like the individual, we're doing it to save like the society.
Yeah, so that makes it way more important than a fucking motorcycle helmet. I agree. We need to fucking put some sort of restrictions on these people. And I'm not saying it has to be draconian. I'm not saying no, you can't get food. I'm just saying you can get food. Just show me you've got a negative test or you've got this card and this shit will go away. You still have holdouts. I get it. There's always the holdout, but goddamn, dude, it just looks to me like our survival instinct as a species is disappearing.
Yeah, that's probably because we haven't had to survive in a long time in the way we think of survival,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
hunter-gatherer type, like that's long gone.
Well, yeah, of course, in the beginning, 100,000 years ago, the meaning of life was about survival. It was about when am I going to eat? When am I going to stay out of the rain? Shit like that. That was your meaning of your life. But now that, we've really captured this culture that we have and we're all pretty safe considering what's going on. Now we have this, our meaning of life is about freedom, and it's about, it's all these existential things that we worry about that really don't fucking matter. And when it comes down to we're all going to die of a disease if we don't get a fucking shot, and we turn that into some political crisis, we're not surviving anymore. We're just, I don't know what the fuck this is, man. It's so confusing to me as I have a degree in philosophy and I sit around and think about shit like this and it goes back and forth all the time. I'm thinking, yes, it's a freedom of choice culture that I live in. But when it comes down to I'm going to get sick and infect how many different fucking people, then it's a survival issue, and not just mine, but my family and my friends and you and all the people that I interact with. I need to protect those people as well as myself.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things where COVID isn't gonna like if you just put a pause on everything right now, like if no more people got vaccinated right now and we just rode it out until it was done,
Yeah.
It's not gonna like kill off like half of our society, or like even a quarter or even like 10% at that, but the thing is, it's still going to be a lot of people that die, and those are all like highly preventable deaths to begin with. So that's why it's so like getting pushed so hard, because yeah, it's not gonna, in the grand scheme of things, it's not gonna be all that bad, but it doesn't have to be as bad as it gets to begin with.
Right.
When we can prevent it, pretty easily, if you ask me.
Well, we can't really say that it wouldn't kill a lot of people because we're already up to the fourth variant, and the fourth.
I mean,
variant,
it'll kill don't get me wrong, it's going to kill a lot of people, but
yeah,
like percentage wise and like compared to our population, it's not going to kill like, 1 billion people worldwide.
Right.
It's going to be in the millions. I mean, it's already in the millions, I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Those are all things, it's very preventable, and it doesn't really take much on our end to prevent all those people from dying, and I feel like at this point we're at a point in this like, pandemic where most of us, if not all of us, know somebody that was affected by the virus in some way,
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't die, but maybe you have a family member that went to the hospital, or got really sick. Like everybody knows somebody that has COVID or that's had it at some point.
There are 197 million cases so far and worldwide and 4.2 million deaths.
Yeah. So, you know, if you like ratio that out, it's a small percentage, but
Yeah.
you can't think of it in that way when it comes to this. I feel like you should think about it in the more like, that's 4 million people. Like
Yeah.
that's, if you compare 4 million to 7 billion, you're like, oh, that's nothing. But try like imagining 4 million people, like, in a room somewhere or like on a field. Like that's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a hell of a lot of people. It's one third the population of the Los Angeles basin. So no, it's a hell of a lot of people. But I know people that I don't have anybody that's personally died from it, but I know a bunch of people who have had it, and I know people who have died. So it's dude. I don't even know what to say because it it comes down to the water situation is the same and the fires raging throughout the fucking world and we don't see we only see what's happening around us. Like I said, like it affects us directly. Like the fires affected us last year when the smoke descended on the valley. Now now Minneapolis, Minnesota has uh, problems from the wildfires north of us. So the world is beginning to be affected on it, like it's beginning to affect us on a global scale, like COVID, the fires. Iran is on fire. Uh, whatever, Brazil, Madagascar. The Southwest, the Northwest United States. This shit is happening all over the fucking world, and we need to wake up. It's just that simple.
Yeah. And I mean, it's gonna, I feel like that's not, those things will like, those events will change a lot of people's minds. Um, but usually the ones that like we've said are gonna affect personally, if your house gets fucking burned down by a house fire, you're gonna be like, oh shit, like this is an issue. If your house gets flooded, uh, all these things
Yeah,
like, but I mean, even though there's all these like crazy shit going on all over the world, like the vast majority of people are still like completely unaffected by it.
yeah,
And it's gonna stay that way, unfortunately. I don't think no amount of like messaging or like, you know, like promoting this, climate change thing. I personally don't think it's ever gonna be enough until it's like a worldwide, like some sort of like fucking like 2012 fucking like crazy ass, there's fucking tornadoes in LA and all this crazy shit.
yeah.
Um
That was a good
'cause
movie.
so I mean, it's like we're capable of like, flipping the switch. And who knows, it might be even too late. Because there's people running models all the time, of like, if we keep going at this rate, like what's gonna happen. And
Hmm.
some models having they have shit going crazy in like 5 to 10 years, or some in like 30 to 40 years, and like we just don't know. That's the thing.
Right.
The Earth is like, it's like a living organism, so it's kind of hard to predict. What's the tipping point. We might be well past the tipping point. We just, you know we're just on the downhill, dive. We just don't even know it.
We might be, dude, because it seems to me like we're picking up speed. That's the thing. And as you reach a tipping point, it should slow because you're getting to the top. But now we're just picking up speed. The whole fucking world's on fire. Nobody has water. People are starving to death, and it just. I had I had a discussion with somebody the other day that w- there's like so many obese people in the world and so many people starving to death, and the ratio is just about right. And I said, why what if everybody who what if we taught people that taking more than you need is a bad for the planet, and that includes the food. So if you're eating more calories than you need to survive or even thrive. I know survival calories are different from thrive calories. So let's just cut it back and say, I'm going to eat all the calories I need to thrive. And I'm going to forego all that. And if I eat more than that, does that make me a selfish bastard? Does it? What do you think?
Um, I mean, like morally, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it would make you, morally speaking, like strictly morally, yeah, that makes you selfish. Um, but I think when you like apply every other factor like that we live in, um, because I mean, it's not like if your thing was like if the scenario was, I had a cheeseburger and then there's another cheeseburger right next to it, and I'm still kind of hungry. I probably won't finish the second one, if I start eating it. But there's like a starving like person right next to you, and then you still decide to eat it. Yeah, then that's wrong. That's morally wrong. But it's not that simple for us to where, oh, I don't want the rest of my food. Let me ship it off to some fucking starving kid
Right.
somewhere. You
Right.
know?
I totally get that. But you know what? If you go out in space far enough, you're right next to that fucking starving person, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We are all on this planet together. And that's my point here. We're on this planet together and we mismanage our funds, which you and I have talked about endlessly. The United States mismanages its funds and capitalism has run amok to the point where people can starve to. There are motherfuckers leaning on the food max right down the street from me, hungry. They're leaning on a fucking building full of food and they're hungry. And that somehow just doesn't sit well with me. I don't know what to do. And our jobs, you and I work in an industry where we are doing the most good that we can possibly do.
Yeah.
We feed these people, we house these people, we take care of them, we lead them out of addiction, we do all kinds of things, but still, it doesn't feel like enough that here's the agency with 50 people in it to take care of a city of 2,000 people who are homeless and who are hungry, and how many of our kids just in this town are going to bed hungry, and how many people don't have enough money to pay their bills, and how many people have bank accounts that are just bulging with money that they can't spend. And then, it just all hooks together in my mind for me that if you sit down and eat 2,000 calories in one fucking meal, while there's a dude down there leaning against a building and you say, well, he made poor choices, then you're morally corrupt in my mind.
And I mean, it may be that they made poor choices, but do poor choices equate to starving to death?
Exactly.
Should
Poor
that be
choices. Yeah.
should that be the punishment for making poor choices?
Yeah. But that's our reasoning that, because like I said, you and I work in the industry of the homeless. So we hear a lot of fucking arguments about why people are homeless. And we hear a lot of stupid fucking solutions. Why don't they just get a job? Like, I don't know. They have it. I taught a class, a seminar with my boss. We go around the city and to different agencies and teach about what we're doing. And I have this shocking statistic where I talk about the guy that I see, standing next to a garbage can, and he'll look around, and I'm sure you've seen him too. He'll look around, and if he thinks nobody's looking, he'll go in the garbage can. And then just a few short weeks later, he don't give a fuck who's looking at him.
Yeah.
They degrade into this culture of homelessness. And the shocking statistic is that it takes about 6 weeks for a person to lose their ability to communicate properly with anyone. So in 6 weeks, and then that can take up to a year to pull yourself out of that. And that takes a lot of fucking help and a lot of agencies and a lot of people like you and I and a lot of therapy and all the things that it takes to get people back out of this. So I think that homelessness in our society is moral corruption of everybody else. just because you made a poor fucking choice, and don't tell me, motherfucker, that you never made a poor choice in your life and it just didn't, doom you like it does some people. One DUI can take a person out if he's poverty stricken, but 10 DUIs and you can, get a judge and pay people off and pay lawyers and get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's where I'm going to go back to. If you're eating more, then it takes you to thrive. And I'm not saying just survive. I'm not saying survival calories. I'm saying you eat enough to exercise and be healthy. And if you're eating more than that and you become obese, dude, there's something wrong with the culture that would allow people to starve to death while fat people step over them. That is just not right in my book.
Yeah, but I think the important thing is to note that like you don't want to send that message of like how do I word it? Like you don't want to go to like overweight people and obese people and be like, it's your fucking fault that these people are starving. Like you should be, eating less and
Right.
take less and maybe they could eat. Like I think it's more of a societal issue and the way we treat people like like the homeless, that's the way to fix it,
Right.
is to change that mindset, that negative stigma of like, oh, it's a homeless person, let me walk the other way, or oh, I know they're gonna come up to me and ask me for money, let me just I'll get gas at the next gas station, type of thing.
Yeah, I know. Wow. What have we
So
become, dude? Seriously.
we've become a society of classes. We're very class based,
Class oriented. Yeah.
and you know, every class thinks that they're better than the one right under them,
Right.
and I don't. It's doesn't work that way. Just because you have more doesn't mean you necessarily earned it or that you necessarily deserve it, and it doesn't mean because they have less that they deserve that.
Can I back up? You made me think I didn't make that point properly. I don't want to go to rich people and say, you're too rich. And I don't want to go to fat people and say, you're too fat. And I don't want to go to anybody and say, what you're doing is wrong and it's the reason that other people are suffering. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is people need to become self-aware of what they're doing. You need
Yeah.
to become self-aware. And I'm trying in my life to live, my job has caused me to think, and this last 7 years of trying to change my life for the better has caused me to think, yeah, I am the problem. Okay. And I have become self-aware, and I have minimalized my possessions, and I have become a vegan, and I have used less water, and I'm doing all these things because I know that human beings are the problem. Ergo, I'm a human being. Guess what? I'm the fucking problem. So
Yeah.
I don't want to blame people. I don't want to say, hey, fatty, you're eating too much, and look at this guy starving to death. This guy starving to death is your fault, because that that tells him I'm attacking him, and he immediately goes, no, he made poor choices. It's his fault. It's nobody's fucking fault here. I'm not trying to place blame. I'm trying to say everybody needs to wake up to what the problems really are. Too much
Yeah.
water, too much food, too much gasoline, too much. We live in this culture of excess, and we think that somehow we've lived in it for so long that somehow a culture of excess has become normal.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like if we were to utilize all our resources like to full like potential, I think there would be enough, to go around for everybody, in the world.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
but I think that's the bigger issue of anything, um, is our inability to allocate the resources, equally or fairly.
Yeah,
Um,
not equally. Let's not do that. That's not equally. Not everybody. Uh,
You're not gonna get one sandwich a day,
yeah, let's
right? It's,
not do that.
but definitely fairly. Like we waste our rate of like waste is so high of like wasting water, wasting food,
Hmm.
wasting energy. Like that's where I think the real issues are. It's not so much people overindulging on what we have. It's so much the waste that we create.
Yeah.
Like we were talking with our coworker Robert, and he was telling us that here in this country we waste 40% of the food that we make.
I
Like it just
know.
goes bad.
Isn't that a shocking statistic?
And that's nearly half of it. And imagine if you were able to possess like that other 40%, like what you could do with that. It's crazy to even think about. You would solve so many, like you would solve the United States hunger problem like overnight.
Overnight, it will be over if you could. But then you have to figure out how to safely distribute food in y- shit rots, bananas rot. I mean, and I'm sure that that's part of what that statistic holds. Milk rots, shit rots right on the shelf, and they have to
Yeah.
throw it away.
And
And
one of my, I mean, this is where when I talk to people about this, they kind of like look at me like a little weird or funny because they're like, that's not gonna happen, or like that doesn't make sense. But to me personally, like one of, I mean, I don't know if it's the only solution or like a very good solution. Um, that I mean, I don't think we've ever really tried, but I don't think it's a bad idea to try. Is decommodifying food.
oh,
Just like many other things.
yeah,
Like if you want to open up a restaurant and you know, just run a business, that's fine. But imagine if you were to have uh, like grocery stores, like huge. Like these grocery stores are huge, that we have now. Imagine if you could just go in and like just grab the food you needed, and then just leave. And it's like
greedy
that concept.
motherfuckers would ruin that.
But I mean, would it? Because imagine how much food those grocery stores throw away every
Yeah,
single day because they don't sell it.
I know, and the
I
laws
guarantee
make
you.
them throw away good food just because it's timed out.
Yeah. So I mean, just think about it. Like if everybody was able to just, you know, go and feed themselves, like, oh, I'm gonna make this for dinner tonight.
Yeah,
Let me go get, the spaghetti and meatballs or whatever.
yeah.
I feel like it's something worth thinking about because, what drives these grocery stores, what drives all these like things is like money.
Profit.
It's
Yeah.
all about the profit. So, they don't care if, half the food they're selling goes bad as long as they're making money. It literally does not matter to them.
As long as the
So,
bottom line, as long as there's a
yeah.
bottom line. Yeah.
And I mean, just with anything. And like I said, if you want to start your own business, that's one thing, you know, but, and, I know there's people that own, grocery stores and own, food maxes and, all these other things. But that's the thing. Like, I don't think grocery stores should be run as a business. This should be run as, just a commodity that humans need, just like anything else.
At the very least, stop making profit on the food. But then
Yeah,
you're talking about the
but
food
then
comes
you'd
from
have to,
farmers,
yeah,
and
you'd have to run it back to like, farmers, and that's where you get the thing where you just pay the farmers what their food. Um, because I mean, if you talk to farmers, they break even if that on a yearly basis.
right.
Like farming takes so much, like they get a lot of money like once they sell their crops, but all their expenses like for the most part outweighs their profit.
Yeah.
Um,
You farm because you like it, brother. That's the only reason you would
yeah, you
do
don't
some
farm
shit like
'cause
that.
you're not into farming because of the money, trust me.
Yeah.
um but we get into that situation where you pay the farmer, like the and when I say you, I mean like the state, like the government, we pay the farmers to produce our food, and then we take that food and we give it to people, and that's it. Like that's, the farmer, they're doing work, they're getting paid, they, make a living, they can live their lives, and then you just take that product, and because the government and the state paid for it, you're able to decommodify and just give it to whoever's hungry.
Well, I'm gonna have to jump on you here, Carl, because because you've got the farming industry. It's like saying we're going to make hospitals free. Okay, well, when we still have to pay doctors and we still have to pay pharmaceutical companies, so are we going to make everything about farming free? And that includes tires, gas, oil, farming equipment, land, seeds, people to harvest it. There's all kinds of shit going on here where it's making money all up and down the spectrum.
No, but see, those are different. Like, you could go to the farmer and be like, hey, you could take into account their expenses because, they're going to have repairs. They're going to need, pesticides. They're going to need water. They're going to need, all these heavy machinery. That's very expensive shit. I know that, seeds, it's like for a lot of like, big farmers, depending on the size of your farm, it could be close, if not over $1 million a year in expenses.
Yeah.
So, you take all that into consideration, and then you pay them, you compensate them, based on that. If they spent $1 million last year, you could give them, $1 million and, $1.25 million dollars, or however much, we determine should be like a fair wage for that, for the work. Because I mean, it's hard work. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, hell yeah.
Farming takes a lot of work, a lot of people.
What are you going to do on the back end?
What do you mean?
Well, grocery stores are you just going to make them government agencies and pay
Yeah,
people,
and I mean,
pay
every
people
time,
that work
every
there?
time every time you throw out the word like state owned, a lot of people automatically go to like fucking
Mussolini.
yeah, you know. And we have to realize that things that are state owned they don't have to be, bad.
Right.
We just have to do them the right way.
Yeah, who owns the schools again?
And I mean,
Exactly.
school systems alone are a whole different topic that we can get. But it's one of those things where if we just have to do things the right way, and I guarantee you they would turn out pretty well.
It just seems like such a Alice in Wonderland kind of bullshit that we're talking about, because it's not going to happen. No,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. I know it's a pipe dream, and I know we talk about these things, but we're talking about the moral corruption of capitalism. And that's at the bottom line here. Everybody has to get paid. Everybody has to make a profit at the expense of everyone else, right down to where what we were talking about before, where the homeless guy who's leaning against the building full of food, starving to death.
I mean, the government already subsidizes farming as it is because
Absolutely.
they know that if they didn't subsidize farming and if they didn't, throw in their 2 cents, that the farmers would like collapse. Like,
Yeah.
farming's just not profitable in today's day and age. It's not like without
funny
outside
thing is-
compensation, it's just not gonna make you money.
Yeah, the funny part
we need
about it, yeah, we fucking need it, but farming doesn't make money, but everything that supports farming fucking makes money.
Yeah.
Yeah, even right down
tractor.
to the seed companies who are have the government in their back pocket. It's like, you want farm subsidies? That's cool. You have to use this certain seed. You have to use this certain tractor. And you've taken away all the choices from the farmers and you tell them what they're going to plant and when they're going to fucking plant it. So state owned, it's almost like farmers are already state owned. They're told what to do, what to farm, when to farm it, and how to farm it. So,
Well, I don't think it goes that deep, like the control, because Because I mean, farmers are, they've been doing this. A lot of them, they're like family, like generational type things. Um, so I mean, they know like, if you plant corn this season, and if you try to plant corn in that same dirt the next season, you're gonna get a lot of like less corn, because
Yeah.
that's how the field and like the soil works. You can't keep planting the same crop over and over again because eventually your soil and your dirt like it fucks up. You have to change it up because corn. I mean, not to get all like deep into it, but certain crops demand certain nutrients from the soil.
Right.
Corn might use a lot of nitrogen from the soil. So if you keep planting corn in the same spot over and over again, you're going to run out of nitrogen. So you balance it out with, other stuff. You can get soybeans, all this other shit. Um, and, that's where the farmers like experience and expertise comes in. Like they know how to run their farm, to their best of their ability, given what they have when it comes to like rainfall and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Look up in the future. Look up a seed company called Monsanto and
yeah.
do some research on them.
Is that do they have like a government contract?
Yeah, and they basically told everyone you're going to use Monsanto seeds or you're not going to get subsidies, and you're going to plant it this way, and
Yeah.
if you're going to get fines and all kinds of shit. And then look up some documentaries on um, ag farming for meat, and those companies like you know I can't remember the name of the chicken company. They tell farmers what to fucking do. And those farmers will not get paid. They will not get subsidies. They will not get anything. And they're so deep in fucking debt to these meat companies that they're just like puppets. And the farmers are not even, it's so fucking controlled that I've seen documentaries where farmers won't even talk. They're just like, I can't talk about it. I've signed agreements where I will not discuss what is happening in my own farm.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things where I said, like, we have to do it the right way, the correct way.
Yeah,
Like you said, that seed company, if they have a government contract, they could just jack up their prices. And then what are the farmers? They can't do anything about it,
right.
you know? Um, so obviously that's definitely not the right way.
Well, then
Um,
that's that lobbyists control everything, including farming.
yeah. And I mean, it's to get things, you know, where they should be, when it comes to like government and society, all of that, you have to change a lot of things. It's not just one thing and boom, everything's fixed.
Right.
There's a lot of like little things here and there that have to either change or just completely go away for us to live a better life, like collectively.
Right.
Because I mean, why do lobbyists exist? Like, why do lobbyists exist in the first place? Because they're, speaking on behalf of these companies because what? They just want to make money.
Right.
Everything in this country, even our government right now, is just based on money. And we have to get away from that mentality of we're doing this to make more money, to we're doing this to live better lives.
Yeah, we have to get away from that "fuck you, Jack, I got mine" attitude.
Yeah. And like you said, it's probably never going to happen here, or at least not anytime soon. So I think the best, like the higher probability thing of happening is somebody else, somewhere else kind of trying to do things like that, like another country. Um, I feel like a lot of other countries are more prone to like big changes like that when it comes to like their government and their way of life than here in the United States. Because I mean, here it's so stubborn here that we're not going to change unless we have to.
Right. Which
Whereas
this is where we started this
it's our
conversation.
mentality. Yeah, it's our mentality of, like uh, just like greed and, money hungry. And I don't think it's like that, at least not to the extent we have it here in other places. I think there's a lot of other countries that they genuinely care about the well-being of their society as a whole.
Yeah.
so they're more prone to, make the changes that they think would help their society. So we could take those as like little like experiments, to see how they do, and I mean maybe it'll click for enough people here that they would demand that, because I mean it's not going to click for the government, or these
Experiments in
companies.
communism.
That's where the U.S. military comes in and
Right.
tears it all down and tells them it was for their own good.
But you leveled my neighborhood. Yes, sir, we did. But it was necessary because you were threatening our way of life.
So
That's, we just hit an hour, and this has been a journey, and it came back down. It comes full circle right here, because what I was saying before is, yeah, we need to stop blaming each other. We need to stop pointing fingers, and we need to point that bony fucking finger back at ourselves and say, I'm the fucking problem. I'm the problem. And that means that's not just you and I at this level, but that's from the homeless person who needs to say, you know what, I have a problem, and culture didn't do this to me. I did it to myself. And to all the way up to the CEO who says, you know what, making $40 million a year is a fucking problem. So
yeah,
we need to, if we want to do this right, like you say, like you say, we need to do it right. The first thing we need to do is become self-aware that we're doing it wrong right now. And too
yeah,
many
and I don't
people are
think we're
suffering.
I don't think we're close to that yet. To that, eureka moment of like, maybe we're not living life the way it should be lived.
Maybe when the economy collapses and it's too late, then we'll go, hey, shit, we should have done something different.
Well, hopefully it's a little bit right before that at least.
I hope
But
so, dude. I don't see it happening like you, but
I mean, we're
at the very
like,
least, I've become self-aware, and that's something. There's hope that more people can.
I think our future is like very like cloudy, because
Yeah,
like you've heard of like the term like a two front war.
yeah.
I feel like we're fighting like a 10 front war. There's like so many things that could just end like civilization,
Hmm.
that it's kind of hard to gauge like where we'll be in 100 years.
Yep.
There's war, there's famine, there's
Water,
capitalism.
climate change,
A fucking asteroid
capitalism,
could come and kill us.
homelessness. Yeah, yeah. Both natural and unnatural disasters are in our future.
So it's kind of hard to gauge like what, like I think the first big thing that strikes us, I think whatever that is, it's gonna really make us open our eyes quite a bit.
Oh, you mean like COVID? Oh, wait, that didn't work. We need something bigger. We need
Yeah,
like we need like Lake Mead to drop below the level that it can turn the turbines on the fucking, power plant, and maybe Southern California, Arizona, and most of Nevada goes offline. And then we'll see. Well, maybe that'll fucking do it. You think?
and I mean there's a lot of issues that they have repercussions that people don't even think about.
Yeah.
Like climate change. How they say like certain states are like sinking, or they'll be underwater in like a few decades,
Hmm.
or like in the Middle East, in some parts it's getting so hot that it's like unlivable.
Yeah.
And like one of the things that comes from these like big like natural disasters, that people don't really think a lot about, or is mass migration. If half of Florida is underwater, those people will naturally migrate, north, or wherever it's not underwater. All these people I feel like in the Middle East it's going to be a big issue,
Yeah.
because they're very like almost like segregated there based on like religion and stuff like that
Hmm.
doesn't matter. um if you take a huge population of people from the Middle East, and they're forced, and I mean like completely forced, to migrate towards Asia, Europe, all these other places around them, I think that's going to cause like societal issues.
Oh,
So you
yeah.
have so you have natural disasters causing societal issues. And it's just like, it's like a domino effect,
Yes.
So people don't really think about that. They just think like, oh, Florida's gonna be underwater. Like, we don't even need Florida. Who cares? Blah, blah.
Yeah, but there's this, like, how many million people live in Florida?
Yeah. And it's not gonna sink overnight and then those people are just gonna drown or anything,
Yeah.
They're gonna be forced, slowly but surely.
No, people. I know they think like, oh, people are going to run out of water in the Southwest, and they don't think about. Like I said, Lake Mead turns turbines that give power to millions of fucking people. So if it drops below where it can turn the turbines, then you're not only out of water, you're out of electricity, and then you've got 50 million fucking people that need somewhere to go.
Yeah. So it's like a snowball. Like, it's just gonna pile on top of each other. And eventually, if we don't, fix our way of thinking, our attitude, it's going to really come back to bite us pretty hard.
Yeah. All right, man.
But
That's a good way to end right there. Change your fucking attitude. Think about what you're doing and change your attitude. And you don't have, I'm not saying that you need to get some come to Jesus moment or anything like that in a way that you need to change your lifestyle radically, but think about what you're doing. Feed somebody else, give somebody a hand, and if you can't do it directly, do it indirectly. Take a meatless Monday, do some shit that counts, that's going to save some lives and save us for the future, and save the future for your kids and your grandkids. It's not just about now. And I know we have this huge thing in this country right now. It's about living in the now. Well, you better live in the fucking future a little bit or you're not going to have one.
Yeah. It's like they say, it takes $0 to be a good person.
It takes $0 to be a good person. Way to be, man. Well, that's all I got. I'm going to go have a Sunday where I'm going to do absolutely nothing. Maybe I'll think about helping somebody. Have a good week. Have a good rest of the weekend, man.
You too, man.
And remember, this is that show where we're the Thoroughly Wrong Project. Lalo and I, we talk, we are educated, but they're still just opinions. So we may be thoroughly fucking wrong. Later, Lalo.
Later, man.
You have now experienced the Thoroughly Wrong Project with your podcast hosts, Lalo and Bob. We can now be found on Pandora Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podium Podcast, or by searching the Thoroughly Wrong Project to locate our YouTube channel. You can contact us directly by email at thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com, or just leave a comment on any of our platforms. Until next time, thanks for spending your valuable time with us, and remember, always speak up and never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong.